Hi, this is CCM6, the coordinate plane, and finding distance on the coordinate plane. So here I have your coordinate plane. It's made up of two number lines, one horizontal, that's called the x-axis, and then one vertical, that's called the y-axis. The place where the x-axis and the y-axis meet that's called the origin. That location is 0, 0. That means 0 on the x-axis and 0 on the y-axis. What I've got written here are your quadrants labeled out. This quadrant here is quadrant 1. Here we have quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. They're labeled using Roman numerals, and we call them quadrants because there are 4 of them, like the abbreviation or the prefix quad. So, some other items I have written up here are points, and I've labeled the points with their coordinates. So, in quadrant 1, you have what we call like positive x values and positive y values. So, I wrote positive comma positive inside a set of parentheses because when we write and label our points, we use parentheses, and the first number listed is how far we moved on the x-axis, and the second number listed is how far we moved on the y-axis. So this point here that's hitting on the intersection of 8 and 5, it's hitting at the intersection of 8 on the x-axis because that number came first, and 5 on the y-axis. So if I started at 0, 0 and I counted 8 spaces in the positive direction on the x-axis and went up 5 spaces in the positive direction on the y-axis, I'd hit this point. So over here, I've got another point. It's labeled -4, +7. So if I went -4 on the x-axis and up 7 on the y-axis, I would hit that point. If a number starts with a 0, that means you do not move left or right on the x-axis at all. You move 0 spaces. On the y-axis, I would move up 3, and that's my point, 0, 3. And on the y-axis, there's a point over here. It's -9, because I moved -9 spaces on the x-axis, but 0 up or down. So that's this point, -9, 0. Quadrant 2 is made up of negative numbers on the x-axis, but positive numbers on the y-axis. So the first number will always be negative, and the second number in the coordinate will always be positive. In quadrant 3, we have negative numbers of the x-axis and negative numbers of the y-axis. So if I was to plot this point, it's -10, -4. In quadrant 4, it's made up of positive numbers on the x-axis, but negative numbers on the y-axis. So this point down here is +3, -5. Numbers are allowed to be in any quadrant and on the x or the y-axis. That's okay if a point lands on the x or y-axis. We just have to make sure we label our points accordingly. So let's plot some points. Let's start with the first one here. It says A is 5, 7. So on the x-axis, as you notice, my quadrant is neither one of my quadrants are labeled, so I can go ahead and start labeling now. 0, 0 is the middle, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if I look at my x coordinates, none of them exceed 5, so I'm just going to stop. I'm not going to waste my time. And then on the x-axis, I'm going to go all the way down to at least -6. So I'm counting in the negative direction on my number line. -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. up and down. Those are my y coordinates, the second number in all of these points. So looks like my biggest value is 7, so I'm going to go up to at least 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then down, I know I need to go to at least -4. -1, -2, -3, -4. It's always good to make sure that your graph is appropriately labeled before you begin. So now let's go through and plot these points. I'm going to go first to 5, 7. So I go 5 to the right on the x-axis, up 7. I put a dot and I'm going to label it A because that's point A. Get the idea? Why don't you pause the video on your paper, why don't you graph the rest of these points, and then you'll see, when you're ready, push play and you'll see them come up on the screen. Okay, -4, -3. B is down here. C, 2 and then 0. C is right there. D, -6 but +2. D is right there. E, 1, -4. 1, -4, that's my E. Did yours come out looking like this? Hope so. Okay. Now I'm going to write the coordinates of these plotted points. So I've already got some points plotted. I just need to record what they are. So over here I've got my space. I'm recorded where I'm going to record these locations. They're not labeled, so I'm just going to label them for you. I'm going to call this one A, B, C, D, E, F. That's no particular order. So A, over here, this is in quadrant 2. So it's -8, +6. So I'm going to always write parentheses, -8, +6. Okay, again, why don't you just pause the video, try these out yourself. When you're ready, push play, and you'll see the answers come up on the screen. So B is 3, 1. C is 0, 5. D is right in the middle, that's the origin, 0, 0. E is +1, -3. F, -5, -6. Did you get all these? Hope so. Okay. My boards seem to be falling. So now I'm going to find the distance between these points. So this is a little bit trickier. I've got 4 points listed, and it's my job to find how far it is from one point to the other. So if this was going from your house to your school to soccer practice to the grocery store, this would be your route. So if we want to know the distance going from A to B, we literally just count the spaces that we move on our graph. So I'm moving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 units. Notice that I didn't move in like a curved direction. I didn't go down to the origin and back up. I just went straight across. Now we're going from B to C. Again, just counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 units. Why don't you try the path going from C to D, and you tell me, or you write down, how many units that is. Did you get 5 units? All right, pretty easy. Now let's see if we can find the distance between 2 points not using a graph. Let me show you. So if I did not give you a coordinate plane and I asked you to find the distance between these 2 points, how would you do it? Well, this is how. You have to kind of maybe imagine the coordinate plane and decide, are the points in different quadrants or are they in the same quadrant? Because you treat them differently depending on where they're located. So you kind of have to imagine where they'd be. So you have to really practice your graphing first. So if 2 points are in different quadrants, you're going to add the absolute values of the unlike coordinate. So if you notice here, I've got the point -3, 1, and 2, 1. So the ones are the similar coordinate. So I'm going to ignore those for right now. And I'm going to take the absolute value of the absolute value of -3, which is 3, and the absolute value of 2, which is 2. And I'm going to add them because these 2 points are in different quadrants. 3 plus 2 is 5, so I know that these 2 points are 5 units away from each other. Why don't you take that knowledge and you apply it here to item number 2. Push pause, and then when you're ready, push play, and the answer will be revealed. So 4 plus 5 is 9, so 9 units. These 2 points are 9 units apart. If 2 points are in the same quadrant, you're actually going to subtract the absolute values of the unlike coordinates. So here I've got -3, 3 and -3, 1. They're in the same quadrant. I know that because this is negative, positive, so they're in the same location. They're negative on the x-axis, but positive on the y-axis, so they're in quadrant 2. So I need to look at the non-repeated number, which is 3 and 1, and I'm going to subtract. 3 take away 1, 2. 2 units. I know that these 2 points will be 2 units away from each other. Why don't you pause, try this last one out, and see what you get. So these 2 are the same, so I've got 7 and 11. I'm actually going to take 11 first, and I'm going to subtract 7 away from it. Because I'm taking their absolute values, I can do my subtraction in this way, even though the 7 came first. And I end up getting 4. So I know that these 2 units will be, these 2 points will be 4 units away. All right, you're all done.